Now, 2 of the 5 military horses that broke loose yesterday and bolted miles through central London remain in a serious condition today, being treated by vets.
Yes, the frightening and very unusual incident has led to calls from some that the army should not be using ceremonial horses at all, especially in urban areas.
Well, let's debate this question now. Joining us to debate this is Kate Werner from the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals organisation, who doesn't think horses should be used in the military, and the former editor of The Horse and Hound, who used to support the household cavalry as a civilian support rider, Lucy Higginson. We're going to have this debate here now. Let's start, of course, with Kate Werner from the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Why should these? Why should the army not use ceremonial horses?
Well, I mean, horses are really sensitive, can become spooked really easily, as we've seen, and forcing them to take part in drills, whether they're ceremonial or, for crowd control, can upset them deeply. They don't choose to be used as the military use them, to be fitted with bits and reins and subjected to loud noises and used to carry humans. And of course, these images of these blood-soaked horses running scared through London should serve as a stark reminder that animals are not military equipment, and it's time that the Ministry of Defence put, an end to using these sentient beings in this way.
OK, well, Lucy, let's get your perspective. Why is it absolutely fine to use these horses in this way?
Well, we don't use them as fighting forces anymore. We use them largely as ceremonial officers, really. They represent GB, they represent everything that's wonderful about our pageantry. We bring them out as a courtesy to visiting officials and presidents and so on from overseas. When there are state visits, we bring them out on important royal occasions. They are actually selected, bred and trained for this job. So we're not putting, skittish thoroughbreds onto the streets of London. They're very carefully selected and really carefully trained. Yes, they are sentient and they can be flighty and frisky. And yesterday's incident was shocking for all, but they've been serving in this way in London for about 350 years, and it's very, very rare to have an incident like this. Obviously, I'm sure it will be reviewed so that any mistakes or any lessons from yesterday can be learned and acted on. But I think most Londoners and most people around the world would really miss having these horses representing Britain, doing Queen's Life Guard in London and so on. It's just part of Britain, and usually the most wonderful uplifting sight in London when we see them doing watering order and on exercise and performing their duties in London.
Well, that's a point, isn't it, Kate? Shouldn't all animal lovers appreciate having horses in the heart of London, having horses as part of our armed forces?
Well, I mean, horses shouldn't be used to entertain tourists, particularly when they're in situations that could make them bolt and, disappear down roads and, potentially risk their lives and the lives of humans that were present too. And of course, tourists could still visit the iconic sites and pose for photos with guardsmen. Removing the horses from these sites wouldn't at all diminish their charm or the historical interest that tourists have. And I mean, where does it end? What has to happen for us to seriously review the use of horses in these kind of, military events?
Okay, was this on your agenda before this freak incident? Was this something that you'd given much thought to? Because to most people, it seems utterly harmless. It's a nice thing that tourists come and see. It's something that represents Britain internationally. So have you just leapt on this as just the latest Peta cause?
Well, Peta works on, ending the use of animals in all different types of ways, and entertainment is one of them. But it isn't harmless, is it? We've seen that these 2 horses may very well still die from being put in this situation. I mean, the images you're showing now are horrific. And I mean, it's not harmless when they're put in these situations that puts them and the public at risk. We've seen lots of instances. There was a horse that collided with the crowd at the King's coronation. There's plenty of videos online of tourists actually being really disrespectful to the horses on Horse Guard Parade, and the horses, getting really fed up and biting them or trying to move away. Is this, and it doesn't represent the UK. We're a nation of animal lovers. These images that you're showing, that isn't representative of how people in the UK treat animals or think they should be treated.
But can I just bring Lucy in on this? Surely, in a way, these horses have been looked after as best they can. This was a freak incident. This does not happen very regularly. That's why it made front pages. They've been looked after by the very best vets, I'm sure.
Having spent a lot of time in Knightsbridge Barracks where these horses are stabled, but not all year round. They do get an extensive holiday in Norfolk every summer as well. They're looked after beautifully, and their care and their stabling has evolved with, modern practices. They're in beautiful condition. Horses are essentially working animals that like having a job. Most horses, especially the ones that train up well, they love being busy. They prick their ears when they see a bridle approach for them. So yes, this was a shocking incident, but they are also working animals a little bit. Their formal military role is to defend the monarch on parade. So if we still value having dignitaries riding in open carriages, they flank those carriages to be in the way if somebody throws missiles at them or whatever, at the dignitaries or the monarch or what have you. So they do have a working role as well, beyond just standing on lifeguard, Queen's Lifeguard. And they are magnificently cared for. And many of them thrive in this role and live a really long working life because they are so well cared for, with great nutrition, regular exercise, holidays, and so on. So they are, the fundamental question is, are you happy for the horses to be ridden or not? Almost all of Britain is very happy for horses to be ridden because they love it. And it's a really, generational thing we've always done, and we do it better than most countries in the world.
You're trying to come in there, Kate.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the question is whether we want to put horses at risk of this happening again. And like I say, do we want to risk losing their lives? Do we want to risk risking human lives? As much as these animals are trained and looked after, the point is that you can't really desensitize them. It's their natural instinct to be flighty. And, no matter how much training is put in, we can never guarantee that they won't react while on duty.
There's always a risk with horses, but this can just as easily happen in the countryside where we have huge lorries and huge ratios of traffic, and we have equestrian bodies working really hard to open routes up for riders. But I think this was an extraordinary incident yesterday and an extraordinary noise. It takes more than an exhaust backfiring to upset these horses. So I think it was quite an exceptional incident.
Sure, but in the centre of London, we can expect there to be, skyscrapers being erected, lots of construction noise, but because that's what happens in cities. But horses don't belong in the centre of London with all of this noise and, possible things that can upset them and make them bolt, So why risk it?
It looks like we're going to have to agree to disagree, but thank you very much. That was a fantastic head-to-head. Lucy Higginson, who supported the Household Cavalry as a civilian support rider. Thank you very much indeed. And, of course, Kate Werner from Peta. Well...